We are now back to the 10 o'clock session. And we
Yes.
Jen. We are now back to the 10 o'clock session. And we will be talking to our Joshua Jernigan from Gender Education Network. Pronouns he, him, his, is a transgender rights activist and philanthropist living in the greater Charlotte metropolitan area, where he and his husband are raising their daughter together. He started the Gender Education Network, an organization helping transgender and gender diverse kids 12 and younger, and is passionate about ensuring every child has a safe and loving home to nurture their growing identities. Yay.
So I am going to apologize up front for my voice. We took our youngest two, we actually have 3 kids now. We took our youngest two to hang out with some of their family, and their family lives in the woods, and I am allergic to everything that blooms. So I woke up this morning and I'm like, of all mornings to be sitting here hacking my brains out. So if I have to take a moment to cough, I apologize, or if things get a little scratchy, you know, that's just the nature of the game. So my name is Joshua Jernigan, and I am the founder of the Gender Education Network. For those who don't know, the Gender Education Network is a nonprofit organization that works with transgender and gender diverse kids 12 and younger. We work with the youngest in our community because no one else was, and we saw a need that these kids needed some type of community and support. And so we provide this community and support for these kids every month, a couple of times a month. We do a lot of get-togethers, we do a lot of play groups, because our youngest kids don't need sit-down talk therapy with us. They need community to go out to a playground and have fun and experience life in ways that every kid should be allowed to experience life. So when I was putting together this talk today, we were doing what trans kids need. And I'm looking out here going, a lot of you actually already know the answers to everything that I'm going to present today. So I like interaction. So if at any point you have a question or you want to interact, please holler out. This is a small enough group that we can be close and intimate and chat with each other. I don't have to be this person up here like dictating what I'm saying. So with that, nope. Maybe. Crystal, it's not working. I am technologically challenged. I push a button on my computer and it does everything I need. This is not doing that.
Sorry, guys.
Right up in the camera.
Right in it. At least it's facing right, so your shirt's proper.
Right, yes. I was going to wear like a polo and get a little dressed up, and when I put it on this morning, I was like, yeah, that's not going to happen. I wear a pride shirt every day because I live in Union County, and we need more people with pride shirts out here. We currently are serving 54 families in the greater Charlotte area. We also serve over 200 families online because a lot of our work is finding resources for people online. And we have people who actually come to our events from as far away as Raleigh, from West Virginia. We've had people from Georgia. We are the only one doing what we do kind of in the Southeast. So.
We are going to do this.
Yeah, whatever we need to do works. I mean,
Do you see a lot of allied things that members?
we do. We very much encourage parents to bring siblings, grandparents, aunts, uncles, whatever to all of our events, because we know a lot of times if you have one trans kid, but you have 4 kids, if you can only bring that trans kid, you're not going to be able to come to many events, because what are you going to do with the other 3 siblings, especially if you're a single parent or you're a parent who has a co-parent who is not particularly friendly. And so we encourage everybody to bring siblings and bring aunts and uncles. We have a lot of grandparents who come and want resources and want to chit chat with us, which is always fun. We love having the extended family come. So we're gonna try this now. Like I said, technology is not my friend. So I usually start out this presentation by defining terms: binary, non-binary, transgender. What do all of these mean? Transgender just means that you are not the same as your gender assigned at birth. You are opposite, different. There are binary trans people, which is your trans man, trans woman, people who wish to live in this binary idea. And then you have non-binary trans individuals, which I put a small list up here, but quite frankly, there are as many identities as there are people in the non-binary world, because you can't define someone exactly the same as somebody else, because nobody has the same definitions, and that's okay. On this slide particularly, I include something about intersex, because a lot of people say, well, where do intersex people fit in? Intersex people can be in the trans community, but what I have heard personally from intersex activists is we're not all trans. There's a whole different set of concerns that intersex people have that we absolutely have to pay attention to, like forced surgery at birth instead of being allowed to grow up and work through that you don't see in the trans community. So intersex people absolutely are welcome in our community and included in our community, but they are not only in our community. And that, I feel like that has to be communicated out effectively. So what are two things that absolutely have to happen? We have to remember that trans kids are kids first. Trans is an adjective. You wouldn't go up to somebody and say, you're a redheaded human being, so therefore I will only treat you as a redheaded person. You are redheaded and that's it. That's not realistic. We all have adjectives that work to describe us. I am left-handed. That is not the only defining characteristic of me as a human being. Trans kids are kids first who should be allowed to experience life as kids. So that brings us to the second point, which is let kids be kids. What do trans kids need? They need to be allowed to be kids. One of our defining things in Gender Education Network is our meetups. And we have these meetups at the park. Why? Because like I said, kids don't need sit-down talk therapy from us personally. There are people that they get that from and that they need that from. That's not us. We are here to provide community, and kids need community just like everybody else. So we go to the park, we go to the splash pad so that kids get to interact with other trans kids, and it's not a big deal. They get to first and foremost be just kids out there having fun at parks. If nothing else, that is the biggest takeaway from what I'm saying today. Trans kids are just kids, and they need to be allowed to just be kids. But if you want to break it down by what they need by age, it's very simple. What do birth to 5-year-olds need? Trans kids need the exact same thing that every birth to 5-year-old needs. They need a safe space to explore the world, and they need freedom of expression. They need parent love. They need adult love. They need guardianship love, whatever term we want to use for that. They need the ability to exist safely in their space as they are growing and learning their world. At 5 to 10, we start looking at things like social transitions. Can that happen before 5? Absolutely. This is ballpark figures. But 5 to 10, they need the ability to pick out their own clothing, to pick out their own hair. And the beauty thing is, this is not just trans kids. Your cis kids also need the ability to pick out their own clothing, pick out their own hairstyles, pick out everything that they do because they're kids and they're learning. 10 to 14 is when we start getting into the medical side of things with a lot of our kids. Therapy and stuff like that happens typically earlier, but we start seeing kids from 10 to 14 looking at puberty blockers. Kids at this age are starting to hit hormones and they're starting to have changing bodies that can cause a lot of dysphoria that is really hard for kids to communicate out. I don't know a single 10-year-old who can walk up and say, I have dysphoria about my genitalia and I need to speak with somebody about that. That's not what we're seeing from these kids. These kids talk about how much they don't like their bodies or how much they don't like something that they did or clothing that they've worn because they're not given a chance to express themselves how they wish to express themselves. They also need people who are going to stand up on their side. Did we freeze?
You can keep talking.
Okay. They also need people who are going to stand up on their side. They need people who are going to stand up for them and say, I need this thing. My child needs the right to access medically competent care for where they are at this stage in their life. No politician should be allowed to tell you what your child needs. That is your job as a parent and doctors' job as medical providers. And then we get to the 14 and plus, and this is where we start getting into an age range that we don't particularly work with. However, these kids still need the ability to transition, whatever that looks like for them, whether that is hormones or is not hormones, whether that is continuing socially or going on to medical transition as well. We have standards of care in the trans community with the WayPath standards. Are they perfect? No. No one body governing is perfect of anything. But the WayPath standards do give a guideline for parents, for doctors, for therapists, for everyone in that regard on how this looks. So we also need to remember that our kids need safe spaces at every turn. Trans kids need to be safe when they're expressing themselves, no matter what the expression is. We've had kids who expressed as trans kids all the way up till they hit a certain age, and then they realized that that wasn't for them after all. As they continue to learn and explore and grow in their identity, sometimes that non-binary label doesn't fit anymore. Sometimes that trans label isn't quite the right label. Our kids need a safe space to explore that and not be shamed in any direction. And the parents need to not be shamed in any direction. Our kids need to be allowed to explore who they are at all angles of life. And that's the breakdown that we have here is just, again, I pick these arbitrary numbers of births to 5, 5 to 10, 10 to 14, and 14 plus, because that's kind of how a lot of docs break it down. So we're looking again at, births to 5. What do they need? They need access to quality toys and dress up stuff. They need to be able to experience going out there and just living their life. They need a lack of imposed gender roles, gender stereotypes, both from parents and from educators, from medical professionals, from people in the community. We need to stop asking our 5-year-olds, oh, is that your boyfriend, when it's a little girl? Because that's ridiculous. We need to stop putting our kids in clothes that say, mommy's heartbreaker. That's inappropriate. I mean, to be quite frank, we talk about inappropriateness with children, and that's sexualizing kids. That's what we need to avoid doing. They also need the freedom to explore gender as a social construct and not as some innate, you must stay home and cook in the kitchen if you're a girl and get out there and chop wood if you're a boy. Can they do that? Absolutely. Do they have to? No. But as you go across, it's basically the same thing over and over. The ability to guide their own pathway, the ability to choose how they wish to be within who they are, within their budding identities, within everything. As they get older, they need access to that quality medical care, which is why a lot of the bans that we're seeing right now on trans care for kids specifically are so dangerous. Our kids need to know that they will have access to quality and effective medical treatment. And affordable, exactly. We need to keep the Medicaid aspect of this, the Medicare, the Medicaid aspects, so that things continue to be able to be dealt with. So at the bottom, you'll see kind of that the little transition, the last thing. Starting young children are shown they are safe and cared for. Builds into kids who are free to explore their identity and expression, which grows into kids who are safe in their environment to become adults who are their true selves. That is the goal of every parent or guardian raising a trans child. To start out by keeping them safe and allowing them to grow into the adult that they are meant to be, living their truth happily and cheerfully. So how can you help? This is the crux of the question we get with a lot of people who aren't raising trans kids. Well, how can I help these people? How can I help this community? How can I do this? How can I do that? These are the 5 things that we have come up with, the 5 things that we kind of tell allies, that we kind of tell other people. Offer support for the family. Make sure you're out there saying, hey, mama, you're doing a good job. Or, hey, you are raising that child really well. Or, hey, friend, I love that you give your child the ability to express themselves. It doesn't have to be any like big grandiose show. Just a little pat on the back every once in a while is really great for people who are raising trans kids and for family members, siblings. Hey, you did a really good job today. Thank you for being so inclusive in your wording. At every age and every stage. So provide listening ears for children no matter what. So if a kid comes up to you and wants to have a talk with you, stop and listen. Do they always say things that are super interesting that you super want to listen to? Absolutely not. I have an 8-year-old, a 3-year-old, and a 2-year-old. sometimes our conversations, I don't even know what we're talking about, especially with my 8-year-old who loves video games. She is all about Roblox and Minecraft and yeah, yes. Every person raising a child in the room is going, yes. I don't know what she's saying 90% of the time when we're having these talks. But as part of being a caregiver, as part of being an adult who cares for children, I sit and I listen.
So they're working on the issue. They hardwired they hardwired the internet so we wouldn't have it bouncing up and down. But they're reaching out to the tech there at the venue. Thank you for your patience. Again, you can see the slides and other handouts and such if you go to the website, and I will drop it again in the chat. Also the more bios on the presenters and the schedule are on the website. So thank you again for your patience while we get this addressed. Sorry, this yawn is not because I'm bored, it's because I'm usually not a morning person. Well, it should have been really good with when they hardwired it into the internet, but I don't know exactly what is happening right now. I do have contact with people in the room. See if I have an update. Nothing yet. I'll let you know. So, if you're free to chat, to add things on in the chat, where you're from, what you're getting out of the conference now so far, things that you hope to get out of the conference. iPhone 14 Pro Max, I really need to know who you are. I have to take roll to see who if you are having problems hearing, I think we've got the sound taken, or if you have the need, we do have closed caption on. So hopefully you can see the closed captioning. If you have any issues with closed captioning, please let me know. Anything that you need, my name is Pam. I am your lovely Zoom guide. Keep your seats in an upright position and your trays. The exits are. Okay. See if we're back in business. I think we're about, there we go.
Yeah.
Actually educate.
Hello, Crystal.
Yeah, so we have that capability. My first degree was in forensic biology. I am a science nerd through and through, with an emphasis on genetics, because I am one of those nerdy people. Oh, I can come back over here. I was just, very, very like right here. But yeah, so yes, that is absolutely something that is part of our mission, is making sure that we have this educational component. Now, I have been met with nothing but walls when I have reached out to Union County. We are part of the Charlotte-Mecklenburg School District's resources. Our information is out there in the resource fairs. We do all of that fun stuff. Unfortunately, Union County has not been kind to us. And basically, we were told to go kick rocks, and not as short. Yes, and not as polite, not as short of a fashion. Right. I mean, so yes, I think that those type of things are amazing, and those are resources that we have available, and those are resources that we can absolutely put out there and have any type of educational symposium around. Because you're right, it's important to realize that you're not talking about science. You're talking about your 9th grade biology class that you learned X and X and XY in, and that's it. That's not science. That's 9th grade biology.
Some of these forms, like the school board, you only get 3 minutes, but if we broke it up, and really did a more extended educational piece between.
Absolutely.
Message trails, at least it goes down on public record,
Mhm.
you know, that they were given information, cameras are there, anybody watching gets that information. Just to make that case in that forum.
Mhm.
I think I would like to see them see it, you know. They
Absolutely.
address it, you know, they go, oh, we don't, you know, we're not gonna say anything, but to see they are given the information just for a matter of public record.
Absolutely. And I'm happy to work with you to get that done, because we can break anything up into 3-minute segments. And right. 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 Absolutely. I'm happy to help cultivate that with you, because I think that that's a really good idea. And I think it's a really important thing that our school board, of all people, need to understand, just the education aspect of it. Absolutely.
Science, the arguments, and everything, that they have an expert actually come in and, you know, have that, is something that we can help deliver. We will be happy to, and I know we have to do that.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
I think which everybody exposed, like I remember you some years ago now, I remember talking to coworkers about certain stuff was in the news and everything. I think it was in the back of the bill that's going on. I just casually said somebody said something about it. It's not like in nature or whatever. And I was like, so there are a lot of animals, you know, that, yeah, I mean, we call it transgender, but you know what I mean? Like it exists in nature, you know, it's not a human thing, it's there. And I just remember adults there, like, you know, college educated adults, you know. Yeah.
Exactly.
You know? And then, they never, no one ever told them that before. They're like, oh, I just always heard people say, it's like an unnatural one. It's not, you have to look for this information it's out here for you. You know, like, just. Yeah, and they were open to it. They were like being like, they were just thinking like, oh, humans are always coming up with stuff, you know. Nature.
Humans are always coming up with stuff, but it's not that stuff that they're coming up with.
So as a new family coming in to this journey,
Mhm.
To reach out to you, just do the gender education. Like, why don't you share your
Oh, contact
website,
information.
contact
I had a moment, I was like,
their friends, because I have 3 families, that does reach out to me about their little ones.
oh, yeah. So
Definitely reach out, contact.
the best way to reach out is we're on Facebook. We do not keep a big social media presence because we are really protective of our children and their identity. We firmly believe kids need to grow up not being labeled with anything, any reason. And so we don't post pictures on social media or anything like that. I try to keep a social media presence, but as a very small organization, it's just me doing this over here and my husband occasionally. And we get tired sometimes. And unfortunately, social media is the one that gets to go when we get that to that point. Yes, we are foster parents, so we do kind of have to protect that aspect a little bit too. So the best way to reach out to us is either on Facebook, you can send a direct message to our page, which is just Gender Education Network, or you can email me at info@gendereducationnetwork.org. Our website also has a connect to email me list thing, contact us, and it's just gendereducationnetwork.org is our website. Again, when you go to look at our website, I apologize. Remember, it is just me, and I am not good at everything, much as I like to try to be. So we very much just, the best way to reach out to us is probably either on Facebook or through email. I answer all of the emails, so you will be connecting directly with me. That said, we are getting ready to go to Alaska for a couple of weeks. So the next 2 weeks, no one will be answering the email because we won't have internet access. So usually I will get back with you within a day. Very rarely does it take me longer than a couple of hours, honestly, because it all comes to my phone and I can send an email while watching children. Like, that's super simple.
We have a question from the chat. It's not science, it's 9th grade biology. In what way can we make it 9th grade biology so that there's this advancement?
If I'm understanding the question correctly, it would basically require changing the curriculum. I know when people take intro to biology, typically in high school, which I know that that's changing and we're seeing it a lot more in middle school now. It's a very basic science course. If you've ever taken an upper level science course, if you've ever taken an upper level biology course, especially, the very first thing that my professor said to me when I got to college was, forget everything you learned in high school. It was wrong. It was not wrong. It was just incomplete. Very diluted, because we were trying to teach like complex ideas in a very simplistic way. So the only way I think to get that 9th grade biology course, in my example, a little more in depth is to actually change the curriculum and fight to change the curriculum. And unfortunately, because most curriculum is picked through red states like Texas and Florida, you're not going to do that. So it's about having that education in a different way.
May I just also add the importance as parents to educate your children at home because they're not getting it in the schools. And so I really, every time I speak to anyone now, I'm always like, look, buy the books that they're going to be banning, learn about Ruth Bader Ginsburg, like teach your kids the history that they're not going to learn. So buy the biology book, even if you don't understand it, they got YouTube. You know, like it's important to like educate outside of the school curriculum because we're being, particularly here in Union County, we're not going to get that. So.
Very much so. And I try to strike a balance. We are homeschoolers. So my kid doesn't even go to the public school system in Union County because I could not fathom putting her in that system as an adopted brown girl with 2 dads.
Yeah.
like when it came time to sign her up for kindergarten, thankfully, this was one of the thankful things about 2020 is it was 2020 and she couldn't go anyway. So I was like, you know what? We're just gonna jump into this homeschooling thing with both feet. So I am a big proponent of educate your kids at home, and there are a ton of really great secular scientific resources that encompass this out there because us homeschoolers use them and we've demanded them. And there is a large secular community that has demanded this and they've responded. Our experts have responded and come out with some really great things. So there are some really good resources. And the beauty of homeschool stuff is a lot of it walks parents through how to use it because they know that this is going to parents, not particularly doctorate educators.
Also, would you like to elaborate a little bit more on your little side hustle you have going on?
A side hustle. You're gonna have to be a wee bit more specific. Oh, I was like, we just recently picked up a second side hustle that we haven't announced publicly yet. So I'm like, what don't I know that you know? Yeah, so we also run as a program of the Gender Education Network and our goal of educating the community and making it more inclusive. We also run the Charlotte Area Drag Story Hour, which if you know anything about what's going on right now, we are going through it. It's been a week, friends. So yeah, we also run the Charlotte Area Drag Story Hour, which our goal is to promote diversity in literature through performance and drag. We employ drag kings, drag queens, drag friends. Some of our drag performers are non-binary and they don't assign to king or queen. They are just friends. And they come out and they read to our kids and they read to them age-appropriate books. There's nothing happening underneath their clothing. It is literally getting out there and having fun. So we do encourage everyone to support the Charlotte Area Drag Story Hour because right now we are definitely under attack and people are definitely trying to cease our existence in multiple ways, which is super fun.
Want to let you know you're seen, you're appreciated, and we thank you for all.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Right. If no one else has any other questions, oh yes.
Oh, which books do you recommend since you said you homeschool?
So there is a really great online community called See Online, Secular Eclectic Academic. And the woman who started that is Blair Lee. And I could talk years about Blair Lee. I work with her personally. I was a teacher for See Online, so there's a little bias here. But Blair absolutely writes science textbooks. That is her entire job. And so if you just search her name, you will find a ton of secular science textbooks that are inclusive, accurate. She also teaches courses. There are some other ones out there, but I've not explored those as much, mostly because working with Blair personally, I know that her stuff is good and it's accurate and it's scientifically sound. Blair Lee. And she's a great human being too. Like if you join the C community, you don't have to be a homeschooler to join C. It's just that's what we're geared towards is homeschooling there. And you can ask questions and they love LGBTQ questions because they love to get that information out there. Any other questions? Any other comments? All right. As far as I'm concerned, we are done.
It was going to be my base. I'm gonna have to do, oh, no, I don't want to do that. Because y'all have to see on the web. I usually turn myself off because then I pinpoint everything and under the sun. And I will say that before we have our 15-minute break before the 11 o'clock one, hilarious. Oh, that was really, oh, now you just have. There, nope.
people on the Zoom. We're just having some difficulties. I don't even know why Twitch is like, you need a virtual cam like I'm going to do.